All right, good evening, everyone. Let's get started with the market update video again. Sorry for the break of 2 days. I was just not in the zone of doing this over the weekend. So we'll get back with the same thing. Yesterday we had done a live. I think not a lot of people watched it, right? So I think it's better to continue with the recorded video so that people can watch it, and it's also of a shorter length, right? So let's start it with our normal. Kind of analysis framework. So yeah, so let's start with Nifty Metal. Nifty Metal, we had discussed that there's a lot of supply around this area, right? If I remember correctly, and I discussed a lot of metal stocks to go down. If you see, I discussed that you can short Tata Steel in the morning itself. If you see some kind of a topish structure around the VWAP, so you see you got this top right here in the morning. So this was the morning candle, and then this kind of a rollover, you could have tried to take a shot. If it pulled back and it started to fall again, then you could have shorted it again, right? So this was a nice little move on Tata Steel, which you got on the downside, right? Another one is National Aluminium. See, I told you not to short this, right? Why? Because this is still in a very bullish structure. You can take longs at this demand. So see, exactly it's sustained around this demand for the entire day. So this is the power of studying structures and knowing what the stock is actually trying to do. Sale, I told you to short it. Look at this. Nice little fall in the morning. Again, it's trying to distribute, I think, right? Jindal Steel, I had also discussed about trying to short this. So see, the long was they tried to spike up here, but then ended up distributing at the end of the day, and there was a good short here as well, right? So all these stocks we had discussed that you had to short all this. Look at this. Look at all this nice little move here, right? Vedanta, I had discussed Vedanta. There was no bearish bias in Vedanta, so I did not short this because the structure was still of accumulation, right? This thing I posted on the public server. If you don't have the link of the public server, I'll post it in the description. You can check it out. So Vedanta, there was a long. I've taken a little BTST kind of a trade in Vedanta here around this area, right? So let's see how it plays out tomorrow. I expect it to spike up after this accumulation, right? So the metals played out very nicely, the shorts played out very nicely, but now what is happening in the metal index is it's trying to build up on the long side. So the build up is not really complete, but if you see the closing area, the closing action which happened in the metal, if you see the base which led to the last up move is somewhere around this area, right? Somewhere around this area, and the metals have come back to it, right? Metals have come back to retest it. There is, mind you, there is a lot of gap here as well, so it may come down to fill it, but now I will try to protect this. I'll try to take longs in the hope that this base is being protected. So if I go on the hourly chart, you see we had discussed that metals is between the supply and the demand zones, so the supply is acting as expected. Yesterday only we had discussed that there's a supply here, but since the structure is bullish, I will expect these demands to hold. So these demands are coming around the levels of 5540, right? These demands are coming around the levels of 5540. So if we check them out, yeah, if you see, it's basically around this area, and maybe if it comes down deep, then this area. But don't try to short metal stocks because they've already fallen, and now they're at an area of daily demand where the build-up is much bigger. So if you see this build-up, it's much bigger. So this might be a distribution for a down move. We don't really know that, but now that it is coming down, you want to take a long trade in it. So what will be the plan of action in metal stocks is, if this demand gets taken out, I won't be trying a long trade, right? Why? Because this is the 50 DMA as well on the hourly chart. I'd already discussed this, why I use this line, right? So if it comes down here and tries to accumulate, then I'll try to take a long, but it might also gap up and shoot straight up. In that case, you ignore that long. Why? Because see, all this low, when it was purged, people are trying to short this breakdown candle, but in essence this is just developing into an accumulation range if it immediately goes out of this range on the upside, right? So don't try to short that. If it shows any signs of accumulation here, if it shows any sign of VCP or rounding bottom, any of that sort of a contraction structure, you can definitely aim for a long till this supply right here. So this is the only plan of action in metal stocks, and the stocks which you want to trade is National Aluminium. Definitely want to trade this structure. If I check out on the daily chart, you see the supply is around here, which it has already tested today, right? So tomorrow, if it has to break the supply, it might form a 2 or 3 day range again, so you can ignore the stock. But this demand, or maybe this demand, you should be trading these moves, trying to catch them on the upside, right? You should be trying to take this, because anytime this supply will be taken out, the structure is very positive. So there's a lot of space on the downside. Let's see what it does. I expect the move to be up straight away, right? Sale, avoid it completely. It's below this distribution base right here, so avoid sale completely on the long side. This is also completely to be avoided. You see, nothing has developed on the upside. This is constantly downtrending in my uh, opinion. Yeah, if you see, from here is where the trend started, and look at this. It's constantly trying to head on the downside. So you can avoid this as well. Hindalco, I think it has already moved up a lot, and now it's creating some sort of a distribution day here, right? So let's see what it does. It's still at an accumulation here, so maybe this is a fake move, right? If this is a fake move, how will it play out? It will basically gap up here and then contract and move up. So you can try something like this. If it gaps up, if it gaps down, then it will be a lot of supply for it to take out. So don't take Hindalco in that case, right? Vedanta you can definitely try, because look at this day end which it has formed. I'll just delete my drawings. Look at this structure at the day end which it has formed around the VWAP as well, unable to move on the downside, below, unable to move below this base, which is reacting from this demand zone, right, which is in turn getting its demand from this base. So Vedanta, definitely a nice bullish structure is being formed in Vedanta, definitely one of the topmost bullish metal stocks, and I think it fell the least today. Yeah, it fell in the top. Yeah, it fell the least as well. So this shows that there's a lot of strength here, and also it was not falling when Nifty was going down, whereas the entire sector was underperforming. So this is definitely one stock which you need to have a look on, right? And the last one is Tata Steel, so you can avoid this as well. So still the bias in the metals, though they have fallen, I'll try to take a long trade, and the long trade will only be in Vedanta in the metal sector, right? So that is the metals for you. Nifty Realty, we have been discussing this for a long time, that this is an accumulation area. We spotted the low right here. So you see the power of knowing your charts. We had discussed this is the previous breakout level, and this is the demand zone, and we had spotted the exact low. So if anyone tells you that you cannot spot lows or highs in the market, then you shouldn't really listen to all that stuff, because once you start see, when you're listening to someone's opinion about what you cannot do in the market, then you will stop experimenting in the market. When I started out, there was a lot of chatter like this. I was hearing it all the time, that you cannot do this, you cannot do that, right? This cannot be done in the market and all that stuff. But you over the time you find your own way of trading, which is definitely, it will be different from anyone else, because your edge is not in your strategy but how you actually manage your trades. So it's a very important point to understand that your edge is not your strategy, but how you actually keep your losses low while maximizing your probability of catching a big move. So that is your edge. All right, so don't let anyone say that you cannot catch bottoms or tops. Definitely they'll happen, right? Or see, the concept is, if you cannot catch a bottom, you know your reaction level, right? So you know that the stock will react even though it dumps from the supply again and makes a new low. That is not the point. You know that this is a reaction zone, so you're capitalizing on this move. All right, so that is the main point. You don't have to catch a multi-year bottom of anything like that to make money in the market. You just know your reaction points and constantly try to trade them. So this has already moved a lot. Now it's around the distribution area. I won't really short it, but this was a good journey in the reality stocks, and a few stocks did give a trade. So I had told you to only trade this on the long side, right? And look at the move here. I think it's up more than 10% today. Yeah, it's 10.65. So it's up more than 10%, and see, you could have chased this move on the upside here, expecting an up move, or you could have avoided. It's your choice really. DLF, I told you to avoid this stock. Why? Because this supply was still there, right? So this, see, in the morning, if you had tried to take a long here, you would have failed actually. This demand was definitely tradable on the upside, right? So that was reality. Now it's gone, so I would probably avoid this again, right? Nifty Pharma also, we are discussing this daily demand zone for a long time, and now it's also moved up, right? So Nifty Pharma, if you see, it's at a supply zone now. So if some pharma stock is showing any weakness, you can try to short that stock. So let's see, and it's also forming some kind of a top here. Your target for the short will basically be something like this area, some below these lows into this demand zone. Should be your target for that short trade. So let's try to find some nice shorts in the pharma sector. This one, avoid it. Still trading above the VWAP. This one also, avoid it. All these are actually forming bullish structures. Alchem, don't short it tomorrow, even though it's forming a distribution area. Why? Because it's at a previous accumulation base. So if you see, this is a big base right here, and it might give a move tomorrow. Pfizer, Glenmark is also looking kind of good. So even though the index is overextended, you don't really see any kind of a short trade building up in Nifty Pharma, right? so it may surprise everyone tomorrow if it dips down. So don't really avoid the short Nifty Pharma, in my opinion, because even though the index is kind of topping out, there are no stocks that are showing signs of topping out. So pharma stocks, you can look for a long trade. Probably the index fell down because of this big fall, right? And that is why the imbalance was created in the index. So you can look for a long trade in Nifty Pharma stocks. So see all these structures, they're good for a long trade, and probably it's forming on a very nice base in the hourly. Yeah, look at this. So this is the previous swing high. I told you previous swings are very important, especially the breakout levels. Now the breakout levels won't lead to reversal. There will be some demand around that level. You see it's reversing from this demand zone, right? So this is the demand zone where it's reversing from. The breakout level doesn't lead to automatic generation of demand. All right, so you can trade these on the upsides. Another one which I'm watching is actually Glenmark. Glenmark is setting up very nicely around this base. So tomorrow, if it doesn't gap and shoot up straight away, you can use these demand zones to take long trades in the Glenmark Pharma stock, right? So these stocks have run up a lot, so I'd probably avoid them, right? You want to trade stocks which have not run up a lot, because you see the biggest moves, the biggest spikes will come from this area, from an area where there is no possibility of the stock reverting back to the mean. All right, so you can take this. See, look, all these moves, they're coming from the biggest from the area where there is no possibility of a mean reversion spike. So if you see this area, this is similar to Glenmark is currently here, right? This is your Glenmark. See, this is your Glenmark. So something like this might happen tomorrow in Glenmark. Let's keep a watch on that. Other stocks, see, Cadila is also looking really good, even though this is kind of a top, so it might encounter a lot of supply here. So you can watch out for this supply. If you want to take a trade, I prefer to do something like this, not inside the range, because that distribution base is leading to a new low. That is some sort of selling here. You see Alembic Pharma again, this is a nice entry, and look at the spike immediately, which is coming from this area of value. Lupin also see again the same thing today in the end. Even though the Nifty was falling, the defensives were trying to push up, right? Biocon also looks good. So these are the longs you can take in the pharma sector, right? But be aware of the index. It might give a sharp pullback in the morning, whereas a lot of stocks might not correct. So a bit of kind of mixed signals in the pharma index versus the pharma stocks, which is completely natural. It can just dip down here and then go up. It doesn't have to come all the way down all the time. All right, so PSU banks, you see what we had discussed, it will trade in this range, so you need to avoid it. Now see what it did today, exactly traded in this range properly. Now if you see, this area is still left, right? So if you see, this area has been traded, but this is still left, because price needs to spend some time in this area. Price is already just, whenever price is coming down, it's just moving up and down very swiftly from this area. So what can you expect tomorrow in PSU banks? You can expect a dip like this in the morning, right? And then you trade this demand on the upside, because the trend is up. The range is almost done, and this is what you can expect in the PSU banks tomorrow. If I check out the stocks, so SBI has already moved, you can avoid this. Canara Bank, see, this is a nice little range developing here, so this demand is definitely tradable on the upside, right? And the last one which we'll check is Bank of Baroda. Yeah, see, this is the demand right at the VWAP. Nice little demand zone, nice little equal lows kind of a structure here, right? And then you can take it on the upside, Bank of Baroda. That was PSU Bank Index. Bias is still bullish. Nifty Auto, the bias is extremely bullish. Again, no doubts about Nifty Auto. I'll just delete everything. Okay, I'll just keep them. So Nifty Auto, the bias is bullish, even though there is some space here. It's not really coming down below it. It's just sustaining above the previous swing at this supply, probably absorbing the supply. That will be clear when we watch out for the rest of the Nifty Auto stocks, right? But the bias is extremely bullish in Nifty Auto. Tata Motors, look at the nice little move again, originating from this 50 moving average. All these big moves. So the point is, even if you know about the rollover and how to exit losers, you are giving away, I mean, the probability of a big move from here is less, right? So why not just take it here, where the probability of a big move is very high? It's already moved. Apollo tires, you see, look at this punch in and then just stock takes off. Bharat Forge has also already moved. Balkrishna has already moved as well. This is one trade which I am in. I was in. TVS Motors has already moved as well. So if you see what can happen tomorrow is, you see Aisha Motors. This is probably a heavyweight in the auto index. So this can come down, right? This can come down to these levels uh, for more demand, but the rest of the auto stocks, they can stay up, right? So if you see structures like these, they can stay up, right? If you see some structure like let's see this structure, see, this is a really good kind of a build up which is going on. This can also move up in the morning, and then the laggards can catch in who have already moved up today, right? Look at this Escorts, very nice build up. You have to definitely trade this tomorrow on the upside. Nice little liquidity spike in the morning. A huge positions were built here, and then it was controlled for the entire day, right? So a lot of auto stocks are building up. Avoid this. These are the ones which will probably move a bit down before going sideways and trying to move up again, right? But structures like these, just a second, structures like these, they'll start moving up immediately, in my opinion. That is what I expect. I mean, so auto stocks, you can trade these stocks as well. All right, so Bank Nifty, yeah, Bank Nifty is overextended, was overextended in the morning, and promptly it has come down. Now the expected range for Bank Nifty is something like this. This 2% area, as we expected, is the reference range, and now it will trade this area properly before breaking out or breaking down, right? So avoid this and avoid Nifty Finance as well. CNX Energy, we have already traded this a lot of times. It has already moved up a lot. Now it's probably time to rest a bit. All right, it's at the supply as well, probably time to rest a bit, so avoid Nifty Energy as well. Nifty Media, let's come to Nifty Media. This is one sector which is building up nicely now. So I told you every sector will have its time, right? And now see, we had avoided Nifty Media all this while we had avoided it, but now it's time to trade it on the upside, Nifty Media, right? If I discuss some media stocks, see how beautifully this is getting accumulated. Look at the volume spikes here. Look at this, and look at the base. Nice little, it doesn't gap up and shoot up. You can trade any of your accumulation structure around this area, right? For a long trade only. Nifty Media is only for a long trade. I will only take longs in this sector if it sets up. Same thing here. Look at all this build up, right? And same thing in PVR, I think. Yeah. So Nifty Media is setting up very nicely. I'll check more media stocks. If I check Inox, so we can avoid this because it is moving down. If I check TV 18, this is also breaking down, so you can avoid these. You can stick to the FNO stocks. You can trade them on the long side. Nifty FMCG, again, it's trying to trade this range properly. If you see, this is the reference range. Now it's trying to trade it properly. Let it do it, right? Don't mess with this. Nifty IT, the fall was expected in Nifty IT, right? Because unless it takes out and sustains above this level, it won't really move up that normally, right? So the thing which I discussed was, this looks like accumulation, right? But it's very important to form a higher base here for a sustained up move, right? If it does this every time, then it's a bit dicey in Nifty IT, right? But now it has come to the 50 DMA level. You can look for longs, but honestly, I'll avoid this. It's constantly doing the same thing again and again. So you can wait for this sector to actually settle down, and then you can take some trade. So on focus will be auto, metals, and pharma stocks will be on the focus as well, and media stocks. That is your focus list for tomorrow. For Nifty, the view is very, very bullish. And why is the view bullish? Because you look at this, right? I'll show you a very interesting kind of a structure. If you look at Nifty CFD, which is the overnight contract for differences for Nifty, this is kind of accumulating around this base, and look at the outperformance with respect to the US index, right? The US index is getting absolutely trashed, but this is continuously trying to move higher. So this is a very positive sign. So the bias is bullish, but stay in bullish sectors only. All right, that is it for today. I will see you guys tomorrow now. Good night, and have a profitable day tomorrow.